This video provides important guidelines and responsibilities for ground persons. Specific requirements can vary, however, based on the equipment and the job. A ground person, spotter, or banksman plays a critical role in the safe operation of a mobile elevating work platform or aerial lift. In general, the ground person will assist in the safe operation, positioning, and travel of the aerial lift, monitoring the activities of the lift operator, and restricting or protecting the space under and around the base of the lift. We can divide these responsibilities into 5 areas: a pre-work meeting, taking a safe position, establishing safe zones, protecting lift operators, and providing rescue for lift occupants. A pre-work meeting with the ground person and the lift operator is essential. In this briefing, they must confirm that an inspection checklist was completed on the shift. If it was not, the lift must first be inspected prior to use. They must also check the capacity of the lift and ensure that it will not be exceeded. They must ensure that a key is in the ground control's ignition. When a lift requires an ignition key, the lift may not be operated if the key is not in the ignition. The ground person must also understand how to use the ground controls or hydraulic release that lowers the basket in an emergency. If the ground person does not understand how to lower the lift using ground controls, the lift may not be used until this knowledge is obtained. The OEM manual that comes with the lift should be consulted. The team must also establish clear communication signals to be used during lift operation and travel. These may include hand signals or use of an air horn, whistle, or radio. A handheld stop sign must also be used to signal both the operator during travel and pedestrians and other vehicles. The aerial lift operator and the ground person must also make a 360-degree hazard assessment of the operating environment at the base of the lift and the area where the basket will be raised. For example, overhead doors, conveyors, crane runways, electrical buses, uneven floors or pavement, asbestos insulation, vehicles and pedestrians, or any unusual ceiling or ground obstacles must be noted and accounted for. Finally, both the ground person and lift operator should inspect their personal protective equipment, including high-visibility vests, hard hats, safety glasses, harnesses and lanyards, and other safety equipment to ensure that they are in good working order. At Ford Motor Company, a ground person must be assigned each time a mobile elevated work platform is in use, and a single ground person can monitor up to 3 lifts operating within the distance of 1 bay. Once on the job, the ground person must provide for their own personal safety by taking a position where they will not be struck by falling objects, material or debris, or by passing vehicles during the job. Historically, ground persons and spotters have been injured or killed while performing their duties in large part due to the location they were standing in. Standing in the right position must always be a top priority. In addition, a clear line of sight must be maintained between the ground person and the lift operators that they are monitoring. The ground person must pay special attention to potential work area hazards, including congestion from both workers and equipment, air contaminants such as dust or fumes, combustibles, and any condition of the floor that could contribute to a tip-over. During aerial lift travel, the ground person escort must avoid any pinch points, such as columns, walls, machines, vehicles, or barriers on the ground that they could be caught between. It is also important that the ground person not be assigned to other unrelated duties when the lift is in operation. Any minor duties that do not distract from the main responsibility of monitoring the lift operator and ground activities must be okayed by the contractor H&S coordinator and listed on the pre- or daily task analysis. These minor activities must not take them away from their duties. If they must leave the area for any reason, work must be stopped or another ground person must replace them before they leave the area. In addition to being at a safe distance from the lift itself, The ground person must also be in a position to protect the base of the lift by spotting and directing vehicles and pedestrian traffic around a restricted work zone. This involves setting up ample safe zones or drop zones around the work area that will remain clear in case any material or object falls from the overhead work or lift. The area around the lift must be restricted with caution or danger tape as the situation calls for, or other more substantial barriers as needed, depending on the type of traffic anticipated. When necessary, and it is safe to do so, a clear path must be set up as needed for vehicle or pedestrian traffic to get around the work area. When it is deemed acceptable for pedestrians or vehicles to pass through a restricted zone, they may only do so with permission and at the direction of the ground person, and only when it is safe to do so. Pedestrians may only be permitted to cross through a restricted zone if the work has stopped and there is no potential for falling objects. When the aerial lift is in position, the ground person must assist with the base and basket positioning, keeping an eye out for floor depressions, holes, and obstructions. Once again, the ground person must confirm that the key is in the ground control's ignition before operation. If hot work is involved, the ground person must make sure that the area below is appropriately restricted to contain falling sparks and that combustibles are moved or properly covered. They also must ensure that all permits and fire extinguishers are available in the work area. The ground person may act as a fire watch only if it is permitted by plant rules, has been okayed by the contractor health and safety coordinator, and it is stated on the pre- or daily task analysis. If using electrical cords, welding leads, or pulling wire, the ground person must make sure they don't cause a trip or entanglement hazard on the ground and ensure that they don't get hung up while raising or lowering the lift, and that they don't get caught in the wheels or turntable of the lift base. If the lift operator requests help with tools on the ground, the tools must be handed up to the operator by the ground person or lifted with a rope, but never thrown. If a ground person is monitoring multiple lifts that are working close together, and any concern arises that requires the ground person's full attention, all work by the other operators must stop until that concern is addressed. Overall, the ground person must stay alert and attentive throughout all operations in order to perform their responsibilities safely and effectively. They cannot be effective if they are using their phones for calls or texting. Because of this, they must not use mobile communications equipment while performing their duties. Work must stop and the ground person must be in a safe location out of the aisle and away from the overhead work before placing or receiving any work-related calls. Special considerations are involved when escorting the aerial lift. Because of the nature of most lifts, the operator has several blind spots during travel. It's up to the ground person to not only aid the operator but also keep pedestrians and themselves safe. Always remain in eye contact with the operator. If you cannot see their eyes, they cannot see you. Ensure there's a clear path ahead and watch for pedestrians stepping out in front of the lift. Keep enough distance from the lift, a minimum of 10 feet, and slightly to the side to avoid being run over or caught in pinch points. In short, never walk adjacent to the lift or directly in front of it. The ground person must use a stop sign to signal both the lift operator and any vehicles or pedestrians in their area. Automatic overhead doors present a special hazard during travel of the aerial lift. In some cases, a door may open and close on a timer, or the wheels of the lift may trigger the door to open. But once the base clears the opening and the induction loops on the floor, the electronic door sensors may signal the door to close. If this happens, the door can descend on the operator in the basket or the boom of the lift and cause serious injury or equipment damage. Because of this, all automatic doors must be placed in manual mode by the ground person before the lift passes through the door. While lifts being transported on roads outside of buildings do not normally require a ground person, risks such as low lighting and traffic should be considered. If a ground person does accompany a lift on outside roads, the ground person must be in a motorized vehicle and not walking. The ground person also observes and monitors the lift operator to warn them of pinch points, overhead obstructions, electrical equipment, or leading edges of overhead fixtures. Watch that the lift operator's hands, arms, and legs stay inside the lift and off guardrails while in motion. In addition, warn the operator of structures they are approaching while positioning the basket. The ground person should also call out to the lift operator if they forget to hook up their safety harness or any other fall protection devices. With proper training and knowledge from the pre-work meeting, the ground person must know how to lower the basket to the ground in case of emergency or loss of fuel or battery charge. To enable rescue, they must know how to operate the ground controls or other mechanisms that lower the basket. If they are not familiar with the lift being used, or they are unclear about how to do this, they must immediately inform their supervisor, and they must not be assigned to the job until that understanding is obtained. A ground person must be able to summon additional help if the operator needs assistance in an emergency. He or she must also know the appropriate emergency numbers to call. If the lift operator must be lowered to the ground in an emergency, the ground person must be aware of the potential for falling tools and materials. Being well prepared for an emergency can make all the difference in the ultimate outcome. To sum up, the ground person must ensure their own personal safety by the position they take, maintain a clear line of sight with the lift operator, have predetermined signals and communications between the two, restrict the area around the lift as needed, safely deal with nearby vehicle and pedestrian traffic, and finally, know what to do in case of an emergency.